How to apply Kaizen in your relationships. If you have any interest in productivity, project management, or self-improvement, then chances are you will have heard of Kaizen. Kaizen is the Japanese concept of gradual improvement. It means taking lots of very small steps toward a goal that will have a cumulative snowball effect over time. Eventually, those tiny differences add up to something extremely meaningful. But while Kaizen is popular in the business and self-development world, it also has applications outside of those areas. For example, you might just be able to use Kaizen in your relationships to become happier and more satisfied than ever before. Kaizen for couples. Relationships are hard. As much as Hollywood might try to tell us otherwise, relationships do not work out immediately. Rather, we need to work at them and constantly improve them with time. Likewise, we need to stick with them when things are not going perfectly and fight through those bad patches. This is not a mark of a bad relationship. In fact, it is a very healthy relationship that is able to acknowledge its shortcomings and work on them. That's where Kaizen comes in. Take an honest appraisal of your relationship with your partner in a judgment-free way. Ask what is going well and what could be better. Perhaps you don't get enough time together. Maybe you feel you aren't having enough sex. Or maybe you feel that one of you does more chores than the other. Maybe you aren't doing enough new, interesting things together. You'll then apply Kaizen by looking at each of these points and the circumstances surrounding them. You'll ask, how can you act to make that thing better? What small change can you make to your routine that will inject some more novelty or give you a bit more time together? For example, you might make the rule that one night a week you don't watch any television. Or perhaps you agree that you will cook together instead of taking it in turns. If the romance has gone, then you might both make a pact to spend a little longer looking your best for each other in the morning. These are very small changes, but over time, they can add up to make an immense difference. And the rewards you can reap here are gigantic. There's benefits to applying a little Kaizen to any area of your life. How to create new habits in 3 easy steps. Forming new habits can change your life. After all, we are simply summations of the things we do repeatedly. Forming those habits is the hard part, however, which is why it's useful to know some simple steps you can take to ensure that you keep doing the things you want to do. Reminders and notes. There are many different apps and devices that can greatly help you with note-taking and organization. Great examples include Todoist and Google Assistant. Here you can write down notes and reminders that will help you to do everything from taking pills to taking the trash out. This might sound like a small thing, but in fact it can completely change your life for the better as you become more organized and more on top of your daily tasks. By ensuring you get reminded, you can avoid forgetting to follow through with your habit. This makes a huge difference, particularly at the start, when you're still trying to ensure that new behavior becomes ingrained. If you don't want to rely on technology or written notes, then try using physical prompts. To remind yourself to floss, for example, you could leave the floss in the sink. That way you'll see it whenever you go to wash your hands. Tiny habits. Another thing to consider is that a small habit is far easier to stick to than a large habit. That is why the concept of the tiny habit is so popular. This means, for example, that you will aim to only floss one tooth. That might sound ridiculous, but the idea is that the simple act of flossing becomes normal this way, such that you can gradually increase the amount. From a neuroscience point of view, it actually makes a lot of sense. Other examples might include washing just 2 plates or doing 20 press-ups. 66 days. Now you're being reminded to engage in what is ostensibly a very short and easy task on a daily basis. Over time, this behavior should become more and more automatic. How long do you need to keep it up? The old myth is that it takes 30 days to form a new habit. But in fact, more recent research suggests that it is closer to 66 days for most people. Either way, if you can keep up this new habit for a set amount of time, it will give you something to aim for. And 66 days is as good a target as any. Kaizen is the process of continual improvement. It means doing lots of small things that take little time or effort, so that they will eventually add up to have huge benefits over time. A simple example is saving $1 a day, so that you save $365 over the course of the year. But Kaizen isn't really the same thing as the tiny habits movement that is also popular right now. It's actually about becoming more efficient through tiny tweaks of your workflow and processes. That means it also includes things you should stop doing. Here are some tiny things that you should stop doing right now, which will have huge benefits to your happiness, health, productivity, and more. Listening? Great. Stop obsessing over negative thoughts. Find yourself replaying negative things that have happened during the day that you can do nothing about. Then just remind yourself next time to change tune and think about something else. Not only is this a waste of time, but it puts you in a negative headspace. 5 tiny changes that will make you happier. Is happiness something you are either blessed with or not? Or is it something you can work toward like abs? The good news is that in most cases, happiness falls into the latter category. By changing the world around you and your reactions to it, you can become much more content and happy on a daily basis. The key is to start with small changes that are easy to implement. This is what we call Kaizen. 1. Write down 3 things. Start and end your day by writing down 3 things that you are grateful for. This helps to cultivate a gratitude attitude and helps draw our attention to what is good in our life rather than what we are dissatisfied with. 2. Find one way to treat yourself. Even for 10 minutes, find a way to treat yourself. That might mean reading a bit of your book, or it might mean eating something you're excited for. Ideally, pick something that won't cost you anything. Instead of buying a book then, you might find one you already have but haven't read. This has the added bonus of reminding us we already have a lot of things we want and need. 3. Compliment a friend or relative. We often feel better when we do things for other people, and this can be profoundly impactful to our mood for hours to come. While you probably don't have the time or budget to dedicate your life to charity, what you can do is to send a friend a message letting them know you're thinking of them, or to drop a compliment into a conversation with someone. Watch their reaction, it's highly rewarding. 4. Place a picture of your family by the bed and put the TV on in the morning. Reportedly, humans evolved living in small tribes, and that is the setup that makes us psychologically happiest. Most of us are very isolated today, which actually leads to feelings of loneliness and sadness. 5. Smile. Smiling more is something that can make you happier through a psychological process called facial feedback. In short, our mood changes to match our expression. Smile more, and you'll also make those around you happier. This in turn means they'll react to you better, which means you'll have more positive interactions. Next time you're at a cashier, try giving a big warm smile to the attendant. It's small and free, but it makes a big difference for them and you. You've been writing goals all wrong. Here's what you need to know. Writing goals is very important if you want to make yourself a success. You see, in order to be a success, you need to know what it is you want to be a success in, and you need to define that success. You can be the fastest walker in the world, but you won't get very far if you don't know where you're heading. Even just the process of writing your goals brings you one step closer to achieving them, as it makes them real and physical by putting them on paper, rather than remaining hypothetical and just dreams. But how do you go about writing these goals and making ones that you are actually likely to stick to? In this presentation, we will look at the answers to those questions. Use software. Using goal-setting software or goal-setting worksheets is a good idea to help you formulate your goals, especially if you're struggling. Goal-setting software and goal-setting worksheets are created by people who know what they're talking about and how to go about writing goals. This therefore enables you to structure your goals in a way that is essentially tried and tested. Make sure you really want them. Before you start filling out goal-setting worksheets, though, you need to know the kind of thing you want to achieve and what your chosen field is going to be. In other words, you need to decide what your passion is that you intend to follow. This is very important, as sticking to a goal requires you to be highly focused and dedicated, and that means you have to really want it. Break it down. You need to break down your big, lofty, and ambitious goals into smaller steps, and ideally, break these all the way down into things that you can do on a regular basis. So for instance, this might mean that if you want to build a better physique, Your most basic level goal would be to work out at least 5 times a week for 6 months. If you stick to this basic and easy to control goal, then you should find that the overall ambition takes care of itself, and that you end up getting what it is that you want. Start simple. Accept that working out at least 5 days a week is a very hard goal, even though it might not seem that way at first. Better then is to commit to working out just twice a week for 20 minutes. This is the Kaizen approach to continual improvement, and it has been proven effective in countless scenarios. Keep them on your mind. Finally, make sure that these goals are constantly on your mind and constantly in front of you. One of the best ways to do this is to simply have them written somewhere that you'll be able to see them, or several places you'll be able to see them and where you'll encounter them regularly. Get a Post-it note and stick it to your desk.